If you're listening to the call and you're on Facebook, go ahead and just post up where you're calling from, where you're joining us from. I know we have Laura Contreras-Rowe from Virginia on the line. She is a speaker and zillionaire, billionaire, majillionaire, real estate guru. She created the internet and lays claim to South Dakota and Michigan.
Wow.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Let's do this. So let me get the music. Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Breakthrough. What's this thing called? The Breakthrough to Professional Speaking Web Teleseminar, because I'm on a telephone and it's a seminar. And I'm going to introduce your host for tonight, your moderator, Mr. Michael Cuesta.
Thank you. I don't know what that was, but thank you. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you, everybody that joined. Like Patrick said, if you're on the Facebook page, you guys can just kind of shoot in there where you're calling in from, and so we can kind of get a better idea of where everybody is. That would be awesome, so you guys can do that. So we got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. It's going to be a great call. It's going to be awesome, and there's just some good stuff. So at the end, we'll have a Q&A. You don't have to stay on for that. I would recommend doing it because I'm sure people are going to have some questions. You're probably going to have the same questions, and we're going to answer it to the best abilities that we can. We're going to be as candid and honest on this call as we can. We're here to share information with you guys and to just help you, if you want to get into professional speaking. Hopefully this will kind of give you the bump that you need. So I'll talk a little bit about myself. My name is Michael Cuesta. I've been speaking for about 2 years, 2.25 years now. I met Patrick, how long ago was it? Probably 1.5 years, maybe? He actually had an long? Was it long? I don't know. I'm so old now. He actually had an event up in Minnesota, and I was stalking his calendar, and I said, hey, I see you speaking up in Minnesota. I'd love to come see you speak. He said, absolutely not, but I will let you buy me coffee. So that's how it happened there. And so we just kind of talked and started a relationship that way. So he's a really cool, awesome guy. He's done tons of stuff. And but for me, I mean, it's been great to get to know other speakers that have been doing it a long time. And that's where you're going to learn the most from, because they've been there, they've made the mistakes, they've made that stuff, and hopefully we can, learn from that and, use that into our speaking business as well. So, yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I'm married. I'll be married actually 9 months in July. I have 2 beautiful little girls. They are awesome. I have a beautiful wife. Not sure how I ended up with her, but yeah, probably because I had a minivan in high school, so that sealed the deal. So not like that. That's not us. Never mind. Okay. We can delete that part out, right?
Not going there.
Okay. But no, it's funny because I tell that actually in my talk as well when I speak to students, so it's kind of funny. But anyway, so a little more about Patrick. Patrick Perez is our guest of honor tonight. He's spoken in more than 30 states, over 30 states. I haven't even been in 30 states. My whole family hasn't, but Patrick has also spoken to huge national conferences, CTSOs. Those are career and technical organizations. You guys might know some of them: FCCLA, FFA, 4-H are some of the big ones. He's spoken at FCCLA Nationals, Student Council Nationals, STAR Nationals, and National Guard Nationals. That was a lot of national. He's represented by 2 of the top bureaus in the industry. The first one is the Fisher Agency, which is pretty much the top speaker bureau in the youth industry, and then Crown Speakers. In 2012, he was considered the best practice by the Louisiana National Guard Family Program. And he also recycles and probably has a compost, I'm guessing. So
yeah. Actually, yeah. I throw everything over the fence. I live right by a creek, so I just throw it over my fence.
All right, good.
so like, get caught. So.
Yes,
but thanks for that introduction, sir. And just to give some kudos back to Michael here, just 2 days ago, Michael spoke to 5,000 student body leaders with the Iowa FFA, which is the Future Farmers of America. He has a tractor, I guess. But I got out there, killed it, and, just very proud of him. I've had a lot of people call in, a lot of people over the years just, hey, Patrick, I want to be a speaker. And every so often I meet somebody who already has that hunger they've already latched on, and Michael was one of those people, and it wasn't kind of starting from scratch, but Michael already had his own little steam engine going. And, it's birds of a feather flock together. And I just thought Michael was a cool guy because he has my middle name, Patrick Michael. And so we became bromances ever since. And so just for the call, we're going to try to wrap up right at 9 o'clock. We're going to do our best, but we're speakers, and I just had coffee earlier, so we may keep chatting away. But just to break it down, what I want to do is just share a little bit of my story, how I started, what were some of the marketing practices that actually got me out there on a national level, throw out some of the big mistakes that I made in the business, some of the challenges I faced, and then just the 3 basic keys that I've learned from other speakers to just life mentors, and how that also plays into the holistic approach to the speaking industry. Because I don't want to see people succeeding as speakers and failing as husbands and wives, failing as friends, as sons and daughters. Money it's not going to cut it. So just put that out there. Money is not the end all for everything here. So my journey actually started back in 2001. This is just kind of a backstory. Once 9/11 happened, I knew that I wanted to do something bigger with my life than just go to college, work at Starbucks as a barista, and, basic youth ministry. I was working in youth ministry at my church at the time. So once 9/11 happened, I pulled the plug on everything. I dropped out of school. I turned down a leadership position at my church, and I turned down a management position at Starbucks. Pretty much just cut everything off, not knowing what it was I wanted, but I just wanted something different and something bigger. Lo and behold, just within the next few weeks, I got a call from Motivational Productions, who just happened to be looking for a media technician. It wasn't looking for a speaker. They weren't looking for someone to perform. It was just a media technician. And my former president of my Bible college just happened to be the vice president of this company. So they picked me up, and it just happened perfectly. I told them I just quit everything. Take me, I'm yours. And so that was my first exposure to school assemblies. I was touring in a 15-passenger van, working 50 hours a week, sleeping out of raunchy hotels, but doing motivational school assemblies showing videos. So they would hire me, and I would just go set up a big screen, push play, boom. I made my $50 for the day, woohoo. But as a 21-year-old, no kids, not married, it was perfect. So just living out of hotels, traveling all over the place. And then eventually I started breakdancing at these same performances, just wanted to do something different for the kiddos. And down the road, once I finished the tour, the schools would follow back up with the company, and they began to ask, who was this breakdancer that you had doing these shows? And the company, Motivational Productions, was like, what are you talking about? What breakdancer? We just have our technician. And so I began to see that, wow, my breakdancing is causing more buzz versus their shows. What if I start my own little company? So I left that company and started my first business, which was a nonprofit 501c3 called Lead, Encourage, and Dance. And this was using breakdancing, poppers, DJs, and going into schools, going into YMCA's, Boys and Girls Club, and doing motivational presentations just for free. Donations, a packet of ramen, some tuna. And this all started when I was in college. I was a late non-traditional student, started college when I was about 23. And so when I got into the University of Texas, El Paso, this was my first introduction to trying to push out a program into the public eye. I just had this vision, this dream of using breakdance to inspire teenagers, something different, something cool, because a lot of these speakers that I had seen before were corporate white people in suits, no offense. But I was like, well, where's all the other people? Where's the hip-hop performance? Where's the energetic, cool stuff that the kids want to see? And so my first little marketing approach, I picked up the phone, looked through the phone book, and found youth agencies. And I just made a call to one of the youth agencies I found listed in the phone book, which was the Youth Initiative Program. And this was a coalition out in El Paso, Texas, of just probably 40 or 50 different youth agencies, brand new. So I call them up and just introduce myself. Hey, I'm Patrick. I have this club pretty much that does breakdancing, and we talk to kids about making life choices. Well, they passed me along to somebody else in their organization, and a week later they asked us, hey, well, can you come do something for our meeting? And so sure enough, just scrap something together, and this is just very fly, last minute stuff. Hey, guys, we're going to go breakdance next week. Let's get some music. I mean, just real cheesy, street style. Let's just go perform. And so once we performed for this little agency, all the little YMCAs, Boys and Girls Club, just began to ask, hey, can you come perform at our organization? And mind you, we're not charging at this time. We're just doing this for the fun of it. We're all college students, and so we weren't dying for money. Well, we were, but it wasn't like our career. So through that, that's where I began to get the exposure for school assemblies, trying to run a business, and I can say that I ran that business into the ground. Like, it's so much work to oversee other performers, trying to do the taxes. Some of them had their own drama going on with just no child support. So it was just a very, very hard learning curve, and it actually just fizzled away about 4 years later. Mind you, I was honored as the 2005 Young Hispanic Entrepreneur of the Year in El Paso. Somehow they thought what I was doing with this group was pretty cool, even though it was dying. And so fast forward to about 2005, 2006, and that's where I began to see these other speakers. That's where I first got introduced to Josh Shipp, Jeff Yalden, just going through YouTube, Google, and I'm sure most of you have heard of these guys. If you haven't, these are the epitome, the pinnacle of youth speakers right now, multimillionaires who have been doing this for 15 plus years. And so I began to see these guys and just wonder how in the world, how are they doing just like a show by themselves, yet charging so much money? Like, that is insane, but they're so good. What can I do to be at that level? And so when I graduated college in 2006, that was my new dream. I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to use a breakdancing as a hook, but use all of my my stories from working with teenagers, working with at-risk youth to actually reach out and help students. And that is where all the mud and dirt and just reality. You can have all the dreams, but then once reality smacks you in the face, you're just like, what the heck? I thought I was supposed to make a wish and pursue it and pursue that dream. It's going to happen. And that wasn't it. My my first year when I got into speaking, I made maybe $9,000, which is poverty level. And at that same time, I was $38,000 in debt right out of college. I had no real job. So it was just brutal. And I was wondering, God, isn't this something you blessed me with, this ability to speak? All the stuff I've been through, isn't this something that I should be doing? And shouldn't it be easy? And the simple answer is no. If it was meant to be easy, everybody would be doing it. And so that's where I began to reach out to other speakers. I'm sure some of you on the call are familiar with Toastmasters. Wonderful organization, and it was in that organization that I began to meet other speakers. Most of these were corporate-level speakers, but just began to pick their brains. Hey, how did you get started? What's a good price? What should I be doing? And one gentleman by the name of Glenn Galibert actually had a good meeting with me, and he was the one who told me, Patrick, your message needs to be backed up by marketing. It's the marketing that's going to get you out there. You can have the best message in the world, but if you don't know how to market, nobody's going to hire you. And so he began to teach me about getting postcards. Patrick, send out 30 postcards a day. Send out 30 emails a day. If you want a cold call, go ahead and make some cold calls, but you'll get burned out of that pretty fast. And then he asked me, what would you like to make a month? What is your figure? And I just told him, let's shoot for $4,000 a month. That would make me like a bajillionaire. Fresh out of college, that's a lot of money for me. At the same time, he was making, I want to say right about $15,000 to $30,000 a month speaking. And so he knew what he was talking about. And so little by little, what I began to do was brand and market myself, not as a breakdancer, but more as a student success speaker who dances. And I began to get postcards, slowly sending out those postcards. In the very beginning, I began to do emails, which are hit and miss. There's a lot of school filters that will block your email if you don't already know somebody in the school. And so I was sending out anywhere from, probably like 300 to 400 emails a day. I want to go market to Oregon, flood it. I'm going to go market to Austin, flood it. And so I would send out all these emails, and I think for about every 1,000 emails I sent out, I was maybe getting 3 or 4 people responding. And out of those 3 or 4, maybe one person would actually, well, hey, what's your price? And they would actually book a show. And I started to see, well, this is just math. If I want to build up and make $4,000 a month, why don't I send out 4,000 emails, however many postcards I can afford for that month, and just start doing that mathematical equation? Well, if I can just do 8 shows at $500, boom, there's my 4,000. And so that was my new approach. From now on, I'm going to be a marketer. That is my new mission. I'm just going to market, 10, 15 hours a day, market. And so I did that for about 2.5 years, from 2006 to about 2008. And that is when I began to get out there onto the national market. I flooded El Paso, Texas. Everybody in El Paso knew who Patrick Perez was, but I wanted to go further. So I began to push the marketing out there to other states and just choosing areas that I always wanted to visit, areas that I've always wanted to go. And the big thing I didn't mention was having a good website. Once I had my website, that's when I began to push everything out there. And if you don't have a website right now as a speaker, you pretty much don't exist. Not saying it in a mean way, but the market is so competitive right now. You need to have those videos. You need to have something up there that people can see and understand what it is you're offering. So just fast forward. Let me catch my breath here. I'm so excited. Yeah. And so what I soon learned was I had to connect my message with what the market was paying for. I had another meeting with a gentleman by the name of Shannon Pickard out of Houston, Texas, another phenomenal speaker, youth speaker. And he was the one who told me, Patrick, you can speak about what you want, but you got to realize you're only going to get paid for what the market is paying for. The market is going to pay you as a drug prevention speaker, a leadership speaker, a motivational speaker, helping kids get ready for tests. Because at that time I was just talking about, pursue your dreams and, have good friends. But when you begin to change that and talk about, well, how will those good friends impact your academic career? How will that help you succeed in school? So I began to just go under the umbrella of choices, goal setting, and drug prevention. And those are the 3 key topics that a lot of the schools would book me for. And that's when I began to go to small little towns in Kansas. And then my big break came when Idaho, a program in Idaho, found me online and booked us, me and my crew at that time. They wanted some extra dancers, so I brought 3 of my dancers. And they booked us for one conference, about 6 schools, and then they pitched my name to the Hispanic Youth Symposium. Huge event out there in Idaho. And so we went out there, and that just kind of began to fan everything out in Idaho. Schools began to notice us, who we were, so they would inquire, how can we bring Patrick and his dancers back? And so little by little, it's just what Josh Shipp would always call a snowball. You just do marketing, but you keep marketing, and that snowball is going to get bigger and bigger. And then you're going to realize that you're getting shows booked from people who contacted you 2 or 3 years ago, people that you thought don't even exist anymore. They'll just come back and like, hey, we finally have our budget. Can we bring you back? Can we bring you in? And so that is the pretty much the base of my story, was that I wanted to do something different and use my dancing as a hook, but it was the approach of using my message to influence choices, goal setting, and the higher education, drug prevention, those kind of key factors that got people to book me. And the other advice that Glenn Gallagher gave me was, well, let's think of a good fee. What should you be charging? And the funny thing was, he was making $15,000, $30,000 a month, but he was charging $500 a show. And I was like, dude, that is nuts. That is crazy. How are you making that much money just charging so little? But if you think about it, the smaller amount you charge, the more people who can book you. And even now I know several speakers, huge speakers, who make 6 figures plus, but they charge $500 a show. They just are able to spread out so much, because the lower your rate, the more people who can book you. The higher your rate, not so many people, but you're getting a bigger fee. And that is the real short, simple story of how I began my speaking. Right now, I've been trying to transition my speaking a little more, so I'm not on the road so much. I got burned out about 6 months ago in October, I fizzled. I actually started canceling shows, gave one show away to Michael, and just needed a break, just needed time to chill. And so what I'm going to do now, just what are some of the things you can do as a startup speaker, as an aspiring speaker to begin your marketing? The number one thing, the biggest thing, is getting a dope website. Getting a website that is uniquely you, that has a video, that has information about your programs. And I won't get too much into the SEO because that is a whole nother seminar. I mean, it's a brutal process. I mean, it's just so competitive right now. But optimizing your website so people will find you. Another good thing is having postcards that you can send out to schools, that you can take to programs that you go to, pass those out. And, it's just getting the word out there. That's the biggest thing. You have Google AdWords, put $50, $75 into that just to start getting some traction. Another good thing you can try, kind of hit and miss, but sending out emails to school counselors, social workers, principals, vice principals, student activity directors. Those are going to be kind of hit and miss just because of the filters. So you can try it. If you start getting good results, put some more effort into that. If not, bulk up the postcards, bulk up the SEO on your website. And let's see. One good thing to avoid is not being a jack of all trades. I know some people may call you, hey, can you come talk to our elementary school about bullying? And then somebody else will call, hey, can you come talk to our high school about sex or STD prevention? And so trying not to be a jack of all trades, just thinning yourself out just to get that booking, just to make that money. I will say when I first started, that was something I did. But as you grow, you'll begin to see what it is that you can really hone in on, and you can really refine it so it's uniquely who you are. That way, you're just not like all over the place.
Yep. Hey, Patrick, can I say something about that?
Yeah, go for it.
And I just want to kind of piggyback on the jack of all trades thing, because whether you're first starting out, like, you're like, oh man, I got to have like my key message, I got to have, whatever it is I'm talking about. When you first start out, you have no idea what that is. I mean, you might have some idea, but again, like you mentioned before, it could be that is that what people are bringing in speakers for? It might not be. Something really big, as everyone knows right now, is bullying. Some people, you'll see some speakers kind of flow with whatever the big topic is at that point. But this is a long-term thing. If this is something you want to do full-time, you have to have that long-term mentality, and you have to kind of hone in. When I first started, my big thing was like choices, and because it was something that was bookable, that I don't know if that's a word, but I'm making it up. So that's something that was, it is, okay. Something that was bookable that people will want to bring that in for, and then I can kind of, it's a discovery process, trying to find out what that message is that you're going to want to share, but that's also something that people will want to bring you in for. And it's very frustrating in the beginning because you're not sure exactly what that is. So I would say, don't get discouraged at that. It's going to take time. And it just has something that you're very passionate about. I think that's your biggest thing, is the thing that you're very passionate about. It also has to be something that people are booking for. You can't just speak on anything like, like for Patrick, he probably loves Legos, but he can't talk about Legos because no one's going to book him for Legos. So, that's all I want to say.
And then to double piggyback off of that, because that is a good point, is, what is that hook? There's comedians, there's people who come from foster homes, there's my hook is the breakdancing or the dancing, and a lot of people think, oh, he's just going to dance, but that goes back to formatting your message to what the market is paying for. So I can say, like, yes, I breakdance in my show, but I dance maybe a total of like 2 minutes out of a 1-hour show. I've got 2 minutes of dancing in there, and so what I've done is, I guess another key point is that you need to speak on the level of everybody's struggle. Not everybody's going to have the same struggle, but there are universal struggles that we all have. And so what I do in my program with the dancing, I talk about my story, my first school dance, got all nice and dressed up, I got stood up, it hurt, and that just poured more into my own self-identity, that I was a loser, that I was a nerd, that I was the kid who always got bullied, I was the kid that always got picked on. And at the heart of it, I just wanted to be accepted, which is eventually what got me into breakdancing, that I was trying to use breakdancing to pull away from this nerdy, bullied kid and use dance to find acceptance, to find a self-esteem boost. And then I relay that to the students. How many times do we change who we are? How many times do we change what we believe just to be accepted? And then that can go into so many different areas. Some people will drink, smoke, get into drugs just to be accepted. Other people start, doing things that they normally wouldn't do just to be accepted. And so that's how I'm able to streamline that dancing into a more universal message of acceptance, which draws into drug prevention, which jumps into the choices. Another key factor that I talk about in my programs is goal setting. What are those choices, and how will those choices affect your goals? And that stems from an experience that I had working with a young middle school student way back in the days, a little gangster kid who just kind of crossed my path, and I began to mentor him. Spent 2 years of my life pouring breakdance knowledge, hip-hop knowledge, taking him to church, just really pouring everything into him. And the one question that I asked him was, what is your goal? What is your one goal? If you wouldn't fail this year, what would you want to do? And his dream, his goal, his big idea was to build a lowrider. And that was it. Just build a lowrider and he'd be happy. And so I throw that same question out to the audience. If you could do one thing this year and you wouldn't fail, what would you do? How many of you want to go 1 week without fighting with your parents? How many of you want to go 1 week without fighting with your brother or your sister? How many of you would like to be able to accept who you are without having to impress everybody else around you? And so you're getting into that deeper subject matter. Instead of just like, come on, kids, let's keep dancing and have fun. It's more, well, we can keep dancing, but at the end of the dance, you're still who you are. Are you happy with that person? And what are some of those things you're doing to try to drown out that person? So all I want to do is give you permission to be who you are. And so just transitioning your story, Michael talks a lot about how he got his lady, his wife, with his powerful minivan, just sporting that minivan. But you relate that to subject matter that the teenagers, the young adults understand: acceptance, getting burned, making mistakes. They just want to see vulnerability. The biggest thing a lot of teachers always tell me is that I'm not preaching to the kids. I'm simply just letting them know the truth. Nowhere in my show do I tell the kids drinking is bad, tobacco is bad. I don't tell them that. I just tell them, look, if you smoke up, if you drink up, how is that going to affect you in the future? Just think about it. And I've had kids stand up in the middle of programs and proudly declare, I use tobacco. I smoke to relax. And I commend them. Hey, thanks for standing up. You're a leader, probably leading in the wrong direction, but thank you for letting us know why you smoke. And then just letting them know truth. If you smoke, how is that going to help your goal? If you smoke, how is that going to help your health? And so I never try to point fingers. I'm always just letting them know truth. And what they do with that truth is up to them. That's their decision. And that's one thing that I really would impress upon you. We're not here to change lives. We're here to speak truth, and we hope and pray that what you're speaking, they'll listen to it. Otherwise, you're going to be banging yourself over the head when you don't get standing ovations or the kids just walk out and be like, whatever. No, you're just there to share your message. We're not here to, just change everybody. The best thing we can do is change ourselves and hope others can follow that same example. Any input, Michael?
Yeah, I think I think when you think of speakers, you're like, oh man, they're speaking, so they must have like everything together, and that's what I initially had thought too. I'm like, well, man, I'm not perfect. How the heck can I stand in front of students and say, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, and I have my own stuff going on in my own life, and it's just that thing, that vulnerability. When you show that just changes your whole talk to students. That makes you open up. That makes you believable. That makes you credible. And that stuff that you're afraid to share, that's the stuff that you have to share if you want to really get in and touch students on a level that's appropriate. And yeah, I mean, just like some of the stuff that I got just from this weekend, like just those comments from the students, like that just makes it all worth it. And you're like, I know that I had this stuff in my past. I want to use it to help others. And so obviously we have failures, we have mistakes, and do you want to share some of your mistakes, Patrick?
That's the fun part. And one little key phrase I always use, it's from pain comes purpose. Whatever that was destroying you in your past, you can use to help better your future and better the future of those who you're speaking to. And so one example that I always use in my program is my first breakdance experience battling, on stage against some other people, and how I was spending, 2 years practicing, taking all the advice of adults, practice makes perfect. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Just the whole attitude and all that stuff. And I tell the kids, we can tell you all this stuff, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a success. And so in my first dance battle, I'm on stage in front of 200, 300 people, dancing against about 3 other dancers. And when my time comes up to dance, I get out there rocking my brand new Adidas, and my shoe falls off and goes flying off into the audience. And at the same moment, another one of the dancers saw what happened, so he ran to my side of the stage and just began to dance circles around me, just nasty style. And so, it's not always going to work out. Things aren't always going to be perfect. And the same goes in the speaking world. You're going to make mistakes. Learn from those mistakes, embrace those mistakes, and let it just propel you further. One of the craziest things, actually a few of the craziest things that have happened to me, one was a technical mistake. I use my laptop. I use a lot of music in my program, so I have a remote control that I use. And I have different parts of my show where I cue the music with my remote. Well, I was speaking to 2,000 students at the FCCLA Oklahoma State Conference. I'm about halfway through my show, and, I'm ready to cue up the music. So I push my clicker, and I'm like, where's the music? And then I look off stage, and I can see my laptop. And for some odd reason, my laptop decided to do a virus scan. And I'm like, are you joking me? What the heck? And so in front of 2,000 students, I'm just like, dang, this is I need this song to transition into my next point. And so what I did in that moment, I told everybody, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to visualize what it is that you want to do. What is your one goal? Visualize that goal. So as soon as they closed their eyes, I jumped off the stage, and I ran over to where my laptop was, just cut off the virus scanware, jumped back on stage, like, all right, open your eyes. So got that going. Mm-hmm. And that was something a mistake on my technology. But I've been to other events, DECA in Dallas a few years ago. Their entire sound equipment just went offline. No microphone, no music, nothing. And you got 1,500 students in an auditorium where maybe 300, 400 in the first few rows can hear you, and the sound technician left for the night. So all I could do was wave down the advisor, tell her, like, hey, look, there's no sound. And sad story, pretty much 2/3 of the students left. The few who could hear me stayed. And it was just something on the conference's part. They shouldn't have had the technician leave. A marketing disaster that I did a few years ago, which I proudly own up to now. I was sending out my postcards, postcard campaigns usually in April, and I was sending out postcards to FCCLA, Student Council, and there was another organization I never really reached out to called Skills USA, and this is also another leadership group. So I sent out, I think, 50, 60 postcards addressed to Skills USA, but I didn't know that I didn't really proofread really good on that postcard, because on the back of the postcard it said school assemblies with style, real cool, catchy, but I forgot to put the E in the word assemblies. So it just said ASSMBLIES, assemblies. And I didn't know it going out, but then once I realized it, my heart stopped, and I was like, well, maybe they won't make a big deal about it. Well, over the next week, I began to get emails from the Skills USA state advisors. Mr. Perez, never have we received something to this regard. And I had one state advisor scan the postcard, highlight the word assemblies, tell me that this was just horrible, I should have proofread this, never email him again, never reach out to him again. And it just burned a bridge. I mean, a stupid mistake, but a mistake that I made, a mistake that, maybe it closed a few doors, but it's learning from those mistakes, so now I'm a really good proofreader. I've become a grammar Nazi. another, and this is something that Michael's really good at, just the social media stuff, tweeting, Twitter and all that. One time I sent out a tweet right before a show. I was doing a state conference for Boys and Girls Club, and nobody picked me up at the airport. And so I'm sitting at the airport, and at this time I did have a booking manager, so I kept calling her, hey, where's the ride? Where's the ride? Oh, they're going to pick you up. They're going to pick you up. Don't worry. And so me, in my smart idea way, I post a tweet. Isn't it always good to show up to a program where they don't pick you up? Lame. Well, finally I ended up taking a taxi and did the show, went great. But then the coordinator for that conference saw my tweet. And not only did she see the tweet, like everybody else who had been subscribing saw that tweet. Well, she was not very happy. She emailed and then called my manager. You know, this is so wrong. Why would he do that? Blah, blah, blah. So once again, you live in front of the world now, especially online when you do stuff. So that was a tweet that I will remember forever. And I'll just say one more, and I want Michael to share a little too. Knowing when to quit. This is the very hard part. It's the opposite side of success. It's when that success begins to take over who you are. And so one of the biggest mistakes was not knowing when to say enough. About 3 years ago, when I was just grinding, marketing, just beast mode, October is a huge month. It's called Red Ribbon Week, Drug Prevention Month. And so that's when a lot of schools just, they're booking shows for drug prevention, Red Ribbon rallies. That's a good marketing time, or before then to get those. Well, I was getting so many shows, so many programs that, the money came into my mind. Oh my gosh, this is crazy money. And I think in that month alone, within a 3-week period, I made a little over $20,000 just speaking. And I thought I was just the shiznick. Oh my gosh, I just made a ton of money just doing what I love. But at the end of those 3 weeks, I was sick. I was burned out. I was just frustrated, just mentally anguished. Just being on the road that much will destroy you. And so that's when I began to see that you have to have some type of number. Otherwise, when that money gets in your eye, that little sparkle, and you just keep going for it, it'll drive you to your grave. And I've spoken with other speakers, other great speakers who've been in the game forever, and seeing how the money was amazing, 6-figure income, but they lost their marriage. 6-figure income, but they just lost sight of what it was about. And so that was one of the big mistakes, was just thinking money is the end-all factor. Money should be a reflection of your success, but not the reason for your success. Michael, any input?
Yeah, I guess a few mistakes that I've made. I had a gig actually in Minnesota, and there was some miscommunication about how long I was supposed to speak. I don't know where the ball got dropped exactly. It was kind of like a third party that was helping coordinate the show. Not the show. I don't know why I'm calling it a show now. Oh, because of you. I've never called it a show before. I don't do a show. I don't dance. So anyway, what happened, I felt bad. It wasn't really a mistake on my part at all. I had sent them an agreement. We had everything kind of written down. I told them exactly how long my workshops go, how long my talk goes. And then there was still, after I was done, the coordinator kind of looked at me and, she kind of gave me a weird look. I'm like, I don't know what the heck that was for. Hopefully I did well enough job. And then afterwards I found out, I always sent out a questionnaire afterwards. She replied saying, hey, you basically left us with an hour of time to fill. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? And so I felt horrible, and immediately, I kind of just said, hey, I'm sorry about, I don't know what happened in communication. I thought, I said this, and, being new, I was very sensitive about not offending people or anything, and so I offered to give them a free talk, which was a huge mistake because that's something I should have done. So that's something we can talk about later on, if that, how that all kind of works out. But that was a big mistake on my part that I had to kind of face. So,
that's one thing. It's when you make a mistake, and I did the same exact thing, where you want to go back, like, I'll do a free show for you. Just to say it, you're just digging your grave deeper. A lot of times just own up to that mistake and, offer, maybe a free coffee or something, I don't know. But when you start trying to go back and redeem yourself, that's where things get a little crazy. I've done it. I'm sure some of you may have tried that before. But Michael did touch on a good thing, which is the timing of your presentations. You should have about 2 to 3 different segments of your presentation that you can offer, like a 15-minute version of your speech, a 30-minute version of your speech, and a 45 or 60-minute version of your speech, because you never know what's going to happen. A lot of times in the schools, especially with school assemblies, we're going to start at 9 a.m. Well, 9 a.m. comes and the students are just coming into the gym. And, we're going to go ahead and bring in the 8th graders because, they have a test tomorrow, so it'd be good for them to hear this. So 9:20 rolls around and you're just getting started, and that cuts into your time. And then, something else just came up, so we're going to need you to cut it down to about maybe 30 minutes. And you still need to have a knockout message that you can just rock the house. And I think it's always good to have more material than you actually need. And not just more material, but maybe more icebreakers or stories. A lot of times what I do just to fill some time, if kids are still walking in, I just have music going, and I'm already getting kids on stage. Hey, let's teach me how to Dougie. Hey, let's Harlem Shake or something. But just have enough time, because the last thing you want is to not deliver on what you promised. And what you want to do is deliver more than what you've already told them, which some speakers will say don't do. They're just taking advantage of you. But I think you should always give them something that just makes you pop a little more than the other speakers out there. And with the timing, just to give 2 examples, I was at a school. They scheduled me for 1 hour. I ended up having 12 minutes. And so you just roll with those punches. 12 minutes, all right, let's rock this. Boom. You don't tell them, oh, my gosh, I can't. No, you just say, let's do it. Boom. On the opposite side, I had a student council conference, South Carolina. As I'm walking up on stage, they're about to introduce me, and they tell me, okay, Patrick, cut out at 11:30. I'm like, that's cool. I had 1 hour. But then I looked at my watch, and it was barely like 9:35, 9:40. I was like, that's almost 2 hours. What? And so I look at the state advisor, and I just told him, you said 11:30? It's like, yeah. It's like, okay. All right. And so I was on. So I had a whole half hour that I just needed to fill after my 1 hour keynote. And so I just threw in, hey, everybody, I know you've got prom coming up, so I'm going to teach y'all some dancing. And so I had 500 kids in the audience just stand up where they were, and I began to just teach a bachata, salsa workshop. And then we did a Q&A, lasted about 10 to 15 minutes. And so you just fill in the time. The last thing you want to do is leave your client hanging, and you want them to sing your praises. And that is, just one thing that can separate you from everybody else, because I do know that there's some speakers who are like, you just hire me for this 1 hour, I'm in and I'm out. Peace out. Well, maybe hang out with the kids. Eat lunch with them, even if it's that nasty hot dog and Kool-Aid or something, but you stick around and hang out with the kids. And so just moving forward, here are 3 things that I think can help you with your brand, with your business, whether it's speaking or something else. The first one, very obvious. This was actually the motto for James Malinchak, multi-million-dollar speaker. But his thing is always be marketing. Always be marketing. If you're not marketing, you're not doing your job. You are no longer a professional speaker. You are a marketer who is pushing a professional speaking business. And so a good rule of thumb, if you're just wanting to start, if you're just getting out there, but 30 emails a day, 30 postcards a day. If you want to do 30 phone calls a day, do it. But just find consistency. Find something that you can connect to and be consistent with, and stick with it. You're going to have a lot of people say no. Josh Schiff, his little slogan is always, for every 100 no's, you're going to get 1 yes. Take that and market the heck out of what you have. But just remember, you need to have that website. You need to have something for these people to see you. You need to have something for these people to understand what it is you're offering. The next key is not what you say, it's how you say it. Across the board, every speaker is pretty much giving the same message. Your choices impact your future. Be true to who you are. Stay away from drugs. So we all have the same message, but what's going to separate you is how you change it up. How are you different? How is Patrick different than Michael? How is Michael different than Josh Schiff? How is Josh Schiff different from Jeff Yalden? How is Jeff Yalden? And just down the road. And so that's where your own personality comes in. That's where your own stories, your own delivery style. I used to think that I was so special because I use music and I use dancing. until I saw, I think, what's his name? There's about 2 or 3 other speakers out there who do pretty much the same thing. We're going to have a dance-off. Come on, let's get crazy. Okay, I'm going to do some dancing now. And, yeah, so what can I do to be different? Okay, well, my stories, your own stories, your own brand. Even being Latino, I will say that there's people who have hired me solely because I am Latino, and they want to appeal to that market. It's weird, but hey, go for it. A good example of that is Layman Hicks. He's always pushing African-American speaker. Gabe Salazar, Latino youth speaker. So yeah, if you're a female, push that, female leadership speaker. There's not a lot of minority female youth speakers out there, and so push that. And then, last little tip here, don't try to be better, be different. That's my little call sign, whether it's speaking, whether it's dancing. Don't try to be better than everybody else, just be different. And how are you different? You're just being who you are. When I first got into the speaking full-time, and I even go back and look at some of my footage, I was trying so hard to be Josh Shipp. I was trying so hard to use his little quirky humor, awkward, look over here, and it's like, okay, I'm just trying to be a little Shipp, not good. And so being true to who you are, yes, you can learn from other speakers, but don't try to be that person. Just be who you are. And Michael, I want Michael to share a cool little tip on how he actually got this Iowa show. What was that social media mogul method?
Yeah. So for me, I follow a lot of the CTSOs online just because I like to get to know kind of what they have going on. Some people
define
don't.
CTSO for the people who
Yeah,
just
I'm sorry. I meant online, as in Twitter, but CTSO is a career and technical student organizations. I think I touched on it earlier, but FCCLA, basically they're student leadership organizations within schools. And so I follow these, I follow them on Twitter just to kind of get to know them, get to know, just topics and what the students are talking about and whatnot. But anyway, so this Iowa FFA said, hey, we're looking for speakers for a conference. Does anyone have any ideas? And so just joking around, I said, hey, I've heard this guy, Michael Questis. He's the best I've ever heard. And obviously it was from my Twitter handle, Michael Questis. So, and I didn't hear anything back from them. I didn't expect them to respond to that or anything. I was just doing it as a joke and just to get my name and saying, hey, what they're looking for, might as well throw my name out there. And so I get an email from them saying, hey, would you be interested in being one of our speakers? And I was like, what just happened here? So, and it was cool. I mean, I still feel totally honored to have gotten that gig. And, they told me after, they said, we were looking at over 40 speakers and we think very highly of you. And I was like, man, that's very humbling and honoring. So
awesome,
it was really, it was really cool, man. So, I mean, and you just do these little things. I mean, not everything is going to work. It doesn't have to be, you have to send out postcards. You have to do emails. I mean, there could be different things, too, even from building relationships with speakers and getting speaker referrals or doing social media or doing cold calling or client referrals. That's huge. I remember when I first was starting out my very first year, I had sent out a direct email to this conference in Indiana and saying, hey, I'd love to, whatever, here's kind of a little bit about me. Have you hired a speaker yet? And he says, no, we haven't. We're interested. And so he actually had called someone in Minnesota, kind of his same organization in Minnesota, saying, hey, have you heard of this Michael Questis guy before? They said, no, we didn't, but we're actually looking for a speaker too. So not only did the Indiana conference hire me, they hired me too. And then one of their same organizations out from Utah saying, hey, we're having an event up in Minneapolis. Do you know of any speakers? They said, well, actually, we just hired this guy. They haven't even heard me speak at all, and they're giving my name to someone. So it's just cool how, Patrick touched on it earlier. It is just getting the snowball rolling. I mean, and it takes a while. It's frustrating because it's more difficult than what I thought initially, because you got guys like Patrick and Josh Shipp, and like, man, these guys are so huge, but you don't see all the work behind the scenes that they do. They just go out there and kill it, and yeah, it's much more work initially than what I thought, but it's totally worth it when you get these awesome comments from students and how you've impacted them and inspired them.
That's very true, and that's the mentality that you should have is that marketing is going to be your job, and creating the programs is your job, and the speaking that's the fun part. That's the cherry on top. Getting to go to places. I went to Alaska 2 years ago. Never thought I'd be in Alaska.
I went to Iowa. I never thought I'd be in.
You went to Iowa. I mean, dang, cornfields and tractors.
Awesome.
And so it's fun, and it is going to be hard. That's the thing. Speakers come and go. Like a little bright light. They're here, and then those who actually will take hold of what they want and start marketing it, and not just marketing, but having a great message, like a home run message that you can give when you had no sleep, your plane got delayed, you lost your ID, and you had to take a taxi and a train and a bus just to get to the show. That is what you need, is a show that you can give when you're just brain dead, and then give that show over. And it's like a child. Your message is going to develop. It's going to change. There's things that I think of driving in the car, and like, that'd be funny, but it could also be impactful. Let's throw that in there. And so if you're taking notes, and I'll post most of this information on the Facebook, and then I'll email it out to those of you who opted in. But the people who are hiring are, and these are just the acronyms, FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, FCCLA, Family Career Community Leaders of America, DECA, I have no idea, FFA, Future Farmers of America, Student Council. If anybody lives in Texas, we have STAR, the standardized testing. A lot of schools have been booking for STAR prep rallies or post-STAR rallies, which is the standardized testing that kills teachers and annihilates students, but we love it. And we've got pre-prom events. If you were going to do an email campaign for prom, which is going on right now, but maybe for this time next year, hitting up a lot of the counselors and the nurses. I've done, I think, 2 or 3 pre-prom assemblies, and it's usually through the nurses that these are getting booked. And then you've also got programs that focus just on migrant students, migrant programs, Gear Up being one of the bigger ones. That's huge here in Texas, and I believe Chicago, and I think L.A. There's another program, and this is something that I got into a few years ago, was tobacco prevention. Once again, not changing my message, but just formatting it. Are these choices going to help your goal or destroy your goal? And so a lot of SWAT programs, SWAT standing for Students Working Against Tobacco. These are programs that are pretty big. There's one in Minneapolis. There was some in Arizona and Austin, Texas, and I believe down in the Valley. But these are programs that just have these huge conferences that empower students to not use tobacco. And then you've got the migrant programs. And so there's just so many different ones out there. Statistically, I think there's right around 65,000 schools out there. And so there's a big enough pie for the rest of us. It's just right now the market is getting a little more competitive, actually a lot more competitive, because Josh Shipp does have his Youth Speaker University. I'm pretty sure a lot of us are familiar with that. You have other speakers out there who are mentoring other speakers. And so we're all learning the same tactics. And at the very heart of it, I think the best key is just those relationships with other speakers, relationships with your client. Hey, who do you know that could also book me? And so kind of just winding down here, if you are taking notes, your number one thing is to start making a website with your name. I know you may have your business title, but just make it your name, michaelcuestas.com, patrickbettis.org. Somebody has my .com. They won't sell it back. They're haters, but I've tried. Yeah, I've offered. Make your postcard, and I'll even say your video. This is one of the harder things because you can have the perfect venue, the perfect audience, and then the video person forgets to put in the audio, or just something goes wrong. But having a good video is going to be one of your biggest selling points. Marketing materials, I always send out what's called a one-sheet. A one-sheet is just a one-page flyer saying who you are, what you offer. I always throw about 4 or 5 different quotes on there from clients, and I always make sure that those quotes are from different states. I try to hit different sectors. A client from Oregon, one from Massachusetts, one from Florida, and maybe one from Texas or California, just to show that you're huge, that you're big news. And even if these were free shows that you did, just mark it like you're already a phenomenal speaker, because you are. One question that I get asked a lot is, what should I be charging? If you really want to start just building up and getting your name out there, and this is the fee that I started when I first began speaking, $500 a show, $500 locally. I know some of you are like, oh, no, that's too little. Given I know there's speakers who are just starting charging $2,500, power to them, but I just think the slow road will build you up and help refine you as you go. So $500 locally, $1,000 when you travel outside of your area. If you want to, you could package it together, $1,000 for 2 shows locally and $1,000 plus travel when you travel outside. That was really good when I first started because any school can afford $1,000 to $1,500. That's like the magic little number right there. Conferences, that's different. I've had huge conferences with like no budget. Like, oh, we'll feed you. I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe, but the exposure would be good. And once again, you know, this is going at your rate. If you're just wanting to step out there and just make this a full-time thing, yeah, market your butt off, get as many of those $1,000 shows, how much you want to make a month, and hit that goal. Just think about schools you can market to in your area. Some of you may have education service centers. I would say go through that website, Education Service Center, Region 19, Region 20 type things. Look at those sites and find different programs, migrant programs, drug prevention, and just see who can you market to or who can you even schedule a meeting with just to go say hi. Coming up, if you're going to begin marketing right now, October is Red Ribbon Month, and it's also Bully Prevention Month. Huge, huge, huge market right there. So if you're going to be sending out emails or postcards, target that Red Ribbon Month, Drug Prevention Month, or the Bully Prevention Month. And, something that Michael is really good at, something I'm trying to push more, is just your social media life, Twitter, YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram. I had a lot of kids asking for my Instagram. And so, yeah, boom, get all that and tie it back to your website. And that is about it. 8:59 on the dot. Yeah.
You are good.
I know. Thank you.
Yeah, and so I just want to touch social media. I'm actually not that good. I need to get better at it. I need to be.
You went to Iowa. 5,000 people.
I need to get more consistent with just giving little, just interacting more. I don't do enough just interaction, and so I'm trying to be much better at that. I'm finding that a lot of students are starting to hate Facebook, because they say there's so much drama on Facebook, and so it's like Twitter and Instagram and Tumblr. Instagram and Tumblr are something new that I started using. Tumblr, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's kind of like just a picture blog type website that people use. What are they? GIFs, right? I think that's how you say it. GIFs.
GIFs.
And then obviously Instagram.
I do see everybody's questions on Facebook, so we'll jump to those real quick, dude. So this is the Michael finisher.
No, that was it. That's all I had to say.
Oh, okay. You're beautiful, dude. I like your hair. All right, Ms. Laura Contreras, bro, asked, do you have any advice how I can be asked to speak at churches for youth? And her thing, I've done one speech at a girls' conference at a church. Okay, Laura, if you can, that conference that you spoke at for the girls, if you can go back to your client, ask for either a letter of recommendation or send them a feedback form. And what I'll do, I'll post those up there as well. But just a feedback form of, what did you think of the show? What would you recommend to other clients about me? And that will give you the ammunition. So when you make your postcards or make your emails, and then contact every church in your area. From Norfolk, then go to Virginia Beach, and then just spread out. And just remember, it's almost like that numbers game. For every 100 churches you contact, if you can get 1 or 2 to book you, celebrate. And I will say churches may have a different type of budget. Alton Jameson, what he would always do was just in his fee schedule, he'll just say a generous offering, which, it opens it up. But usually when I speak at churches, mostly for youth groups, just for friends from Bible college, I'll get maybe $300 and some fried chicken or something. And let's see, Jake White. What up, Jake? Do you memorize your speeches, memorize blocks of it, or just get into a routine as you go and tweak it as needed? In the very beginning, before every speech, I have my 3 big points, the choices, the goal setting, and then wrapping it all together at the very end, recapping, writing your vision down, writing stuff down, and finding the friends to surround yourself with. And so I don't memorize it. What I always do, I like to use a lot of stories. And a good thing to do is have a good story and then a good little nugget of truth. And so when I give my presentation, I'll tell the story about my first breakdance battle and how I just screwed up and it was horrible. And then I'll ask the students, how many of you have heard the phrase, if at first you don't succeed? I let them finish it, and then try again, and then I cut them off. No way. If at first you don't succeed, change your approach, and then try again. Just something real catchy. You're not going to get what you wish for. You're going to get what you work for. Just something catchy that they can remember, but it makes you look like, whoa, this dude's a guru. And so you get to a point where you have a speech. Some speakers say write it all out and then memorize it. I really believe in the philosophy of adaptability. Freestyle, have your main key points, and then just go with the flow. Go with what the audience is feeling. If you need to change it up, if the audience seems like they're falling asleep, throw something in there that'll just jerk them back awake. Michael, any input?
Yes, actually. I would say, I was going to say two things. Someone once maybe talked about this, I don't know. Someone told me to create a story inventory. So you have stories that you block off whatever, it could be a story from your high school, it could be whatever stories you tell in your talk. Have, this is one part, this is another story, this is my content, and just memorize that story so well that you are able to kind of take stuff out, put stuff in, as you need to kind of change if something, like Patrick said, if they need to cut something or if you need to extend something, you'll have those stories and you can say, okay, I'm going to talk about this story, I'm going to talk about this, and you'll be good to go from there. And so I memorize kind of the big content that I want to say. I mean, you're going to have points that you want to say and say it precisely a certain way that people will take it away, but you don't have to memorize your whole thing. I've even had it where I've stuck a quick outline up on the podium that I might have just as a safety net, just to make sure, if I get a drink of water, I look at it and say, okay, I'm good. I don't have to, remember anything from that sort. So, and then another thing I would say, what I try to do is just have one main message so the teams can take away, because teams don't, a lot of times, if you're talking for 45 minutes, they're not going to remember everything that you say. But if you have a phrase or something that's very impactful that they can take away, that's something that's huge, especially for students, that they can just, have and they know you as, this is what he talked about. If you can remember one thing from my speech, what is it that it is? And so if that's the one thing, that's what I would go with, if that makes sense at all.
Very true. And it's, as Michael said, at the very end, if you just even want to say that, if you forget everything I've said, just remember this. Throw it out there. Yep. And that leads into, and there's just so much more that, just different tactics. I always give away postcards. I believe Michael gives away postcards. But I always have a website on that postcard, keepondancing.info, where I tell the kids, if you liked all the music you heard, you want to see videos, or you just need some advice, boom, go to keepondancing.info, and, they go on there and they can keep interacting. And that's the biggest thing that I always hear is, well, you charge all this money for 1 hour and then you're gone. How do we know if it makes a difference? Well, that's where your continuing education resources come in, having a book. I send my clients downloadable posters with my key phrases and a cool breakdance pose for free. I used to charge for it, but now I just give it to them for free, print it up, give it to all the kids. They got the postcard. But just something that pushes you over, that makes you look just like, wow, this guy hung out with the kids. I was at a school and I opted to stay for lunch and teach dancing for all 4 lunches, just because. It's not hurting anybody, and they love you for it. Another question from Laura. Once again, she's asking who covers the flight and hotel when you travel. So say you're traveling $1,000 out of the area. I always just put in there, first show $1,000 plus travel expenses, $500 each additional show. Travel expenses usually will include your flight, your hotel, rental car. You can throw in a food per diem in there, and then parking for your car at the airport if you need to. But usually what I like to do is just give the person an inclusive rate and just say, like, hey, as of right now, here's the rate. It'll fluctuate once we book the contract, but here, and usually it's $500 to $600 with flight and all that stuff. And if it's within 300 miles, I just drive. I'm so sick of airplanes, I just get in the car and drive down to the valley or somewhere.
Why don't you just buy your own plane and then make it easier?
I'm not green enough. Yeah, and I did post some information right here on the web, the Facebook site about where we get our websites made. I believe, Michael, you have a guy that actually built your site for you.
Correct.
Okay. Can you give some information on how they can find somebody who can build their site?
You know what? This guy was a friend of mine. I can throw his name out, but
yeah,
I'm just sure I'll throw his name out there. He'd be happy to, hook people up. So.
And I just put another website. It's called elance.com. This is where I had my website from 3 years ago made. Elance.com is just an outsourced site from all over the world. So if you need somebody to do postcards for you, design one sheet, design a website, you just go onto elance.com, and I just posted that. And you actually get bids from people all over the world. And so my website was built by the same people who did like Coca-Cola Italy or something. And then the last guy I had was just somebody who, like Michael, one of my friends, built my website. And then I just posted for Miss Katie, domains priced right. I believe they're a GoDaddy affiliate. But I just got to the point where I wanted to be able to make changes on my website, like lickety split. I'm a control freak. So domains priced right, it allows you to do a website tonight. Phenomenal program, makes killer websites, which you can optimize really good. And I posted that up there as well. And I think we got all the questions. Got that. Chillaxing. Oh, yeah, Tanya. Okay, cool. Giving a shout-out to everybody who came out here, Katie, Jake, and Michael. Hey, there's Benga. What up, Benga? And Will Dino, maybe he's there. But, yeah, any closing remarks? We got about 1 minute. We'll just wrap this up.
Are you talking to me or anybody?
Yeah. No, I'm talking to you.
No, I'll post my information, the email, stuff like that. You guys can, if you have any questions, or Patrick too, we both can do that. Our social media stuff. If you guys got any other questions that you don't want to ask or whatnot, you can email us, and yeah.
And that's
it.
That's pretty much it. We're just doing this call to give you guys a heads up in the speaking world. And what I'm going to be doing, for those of you who haven't signed up on the opt-in to keep posted on upcoming teleseminars like this, I'll post the information again, and we'll put our Twitter, I saw that, Jake, we'll put all our information up here. But what we're going to do, I am going to have another teleconference just like this, but digging more into marketing tactics, the website creation, what are 3 things you need on your home page, those hero tags, a call to action, just stuff on there that can really help streamline your business. And so we'll be doing another call, I guess, in about 2 to 3 weeks. I'll keep everybody posted. And then this summer, I'm going to be hosting a 1-day boot camp to actually sit down and help you here in Austin, Texas. I'm opening it up because I would like to get that one-on-one just to see your presentation style, just to see what is it that you're bringing and how we can help refine that and just take it to the next level. Look at your material, look at your video, look at your website, and we will definitely help you guys because we believe in you. And me and Michael are getting really old, so we can't do this forever.
That's true. Yeah, you're older than me, though. So.
Yeah, I'm from Austin, so I'll cut my age in half.
That's true.
Down here. Yep.
Do that.
So we'll post that information, and I'll post the opt-in page. But once again, I'll make another Facebook post for all of you. But I just want to say thanks again for everybody coming out. Michael, I'm giving you a snap.
Thanks.
Michael's killing it out there. And, thank all of you guys for just tuning in. And I will post this speech also, teleseminar, whatever you want to call it. I'll post this up here as well. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to get in touch with us. We're just normal people like you who just happen to drive American cars. So we're here.
Yes. Well, my wife has a Honda Odyssey, though. Does that count?
No, she's a traitor, dude. She's a traitor. Yeah, she's not my friend anymore.
Okay.
All right, well, I will close this out. I love all of you, and just remember, this is a little thing I just posted on my Facebook that I saw. I love it. Great it is to dream a dream by the youth of a starry stream, but greater it is to fight life through and say in the end, my dream came true. Okay, cute. Okay, that's everybody's cue to hang up. Me and Michael are going to...
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, and be sure to post something on our Facebook, make us feel special. And I'm trying to find out how to end the recording part of this. What's it called?
We're going forever.
To stop recording, host hit *9. Okay, hold on. Wait for it.